So, what would you guys do if you got hit by a car? Now, I suppose most people call the police, call an ambulance, or even check to a hospital, or maybe even call up a lawyer and start throwing down legally. But wait, what if I told you there's a way to heal fractured bones and injuries without having to go to a hospital, but by purely using the power of electricity? Kind of sounds like sci fi, right? Well, this is exactly what famed inventor Nikola Tesla set out to do after getting hit by a taxi in 1937 and being sent hitting the pavement like a sack of potatoes. Now, to the average person, this probably sounds really painful and dangerous, right? I mean, we hear stories all the time, people getting killed or injured by high powered lines. Tesla made a groundbreaking discovery of a specific type of electricity that is not only safe but also therapeutic and can bring back powerful healing. Tesla eventually brought this to the public in the form of the famous violet ray healing device, which most people today have never heard of. So, just what is this supposed healing electricity that Tesla discovered in his lab, and did it even work? Now, I talked about electrotherapy here on this channel before and how it saw a resurgence in the 1970s thanks to the work of Dr. Robert Becker. However, it is important to note that not only did electrotherapy exist prior to that period, but it was also very widespread during the 1800s and early 20th century. So much so to the extent that there was an entire American Electrotherapeutic Association founded in 1890. So how could something that was so well established for over 100 years and respected by most medical institutions be labeled as quackery, and then just suddenly disappear overnight like one of those embarrassing 1980s hairstyles? This is what I want to talk about today. Tesla's exploration to the field of electromedicine and how the entire field collapsed seemingly overnight. Was Tesla's violet ray truly an effective and holistic healing modality, or was it just another example of quack science meant to push snake oil that actually doesn't work? So going back to Tesla, exactly how did he heal himself from the car accident? In his 1898 lecture, Tesla went into great detail regarding how safe and therapeutic using high-frequency electric currents were for the body. Tesla stated that high-frequency currents had, quote, an apparent harmlessness which made it possible to pass relatively great amounts of electrical energy through the body of a person without causing pain or serious discomfort, end quote. The key thing you want to pay attention to here is the term high frequency. Most people know that typical electricity coming from a wall socket can give you a nasty shock or even kill you on some occasions. This is because conventional electricity coming from a wall socket runs at low frequencies at 1 kilohertz or below. However, when you go to a higher frequency at 10 kilohertz or above, you don't experience any of the pain or discomfort, and in some occasions can actually help you heal. Now, another really crazy thing that Tesla found was that high frequency electric fields naturally produce a powerful healing compound called ozone. This is because the electric sparks emitted would literally break the oxygen molecules in the air to allow ozone to form. This is pretty massive because, for those that don't know what ozone is, ozone therapy is frequently used in holistic medicine to heal and disinfect tissue in a safe and non invasive fashion. So just imagine if every single household had access to an electric therapy device and could self-treat with therapeutic currents and ozone. It'd be a complete game over for Big Pharma. Tesla never went on to officially patent or commercialize his electric healing device. However, it would soon take on a life of its own as the Tesla Violet Ray, which was later distributed heavily across the country. So just how prevalent was the Tesla Violet Ray device? Even prior to Tesla's violet ray becoming available, electrotherapy was documented to be in use as far back as 46 AD when the Greeks tossed electric eels into foot baths for therapy purposes. By the 1800s, electrotherapy is already in use by most physicians. It peaked in popularity in 1890 when the Electrotherapeutic Society was formed. At the time, most medical colleges had programs dedicated to this practice. Companies like Relevance, Violet Ray Company, and Master Electric sold millions of Violet Ray healing devices throughout the early 1900s until about 1940. So this naturally draws into question, if electric healing modalities were so widespread and so well established, why did it suddenly just go away overnight? Well, that could be largely blamed on the Flexner Report, which led to the removal of nearly all electromedicine and training programs from most hospitals and medical schools. Even though electromedicine never entirely went away, its credibility was largely wiped out by a fake doctor named Abraham Flexner, who either did not understand or did this deliberately in order to clear a path for big pharma drugs, so he labeled the entire field of electromedicine as quackery. So for over 100 years, we have electromedicine established as entire respected science, only for a non-doctor to designate as nonsense. Kind of crazy, huh? And that's a pretty big tragedy in my personal opinion. So how does Tesla's violet ray device actually work? Going back to Tesla's early lecture, the device harnesses the healing power of high-frequency AC currents to help heal the body of most afflictions. The high-frequency currents are generated by a Tesla coil inside the unit and then run through a glass electrode containing argon, which then produces a violet plasma that is then put in contact with the body to heal. If you've read the works with Dr. Robert Becker or Jerry Tennant, you would know that any physical trauma or inflammation is caused or accompanied by a loss of electrons or a low voltage. Therefore, adding electrons to the body through electric currents acts as a direct healing agent that works with the fundamental laws of life. Electric healing modalities take full advantage of the bioelectric nature of the body, which conflicts directly with Big Pharma's paradigm that all biological processes are purely chemically or hormonally driven in nature. Just imagine how cheap and convenient it would be for any person with an electric therapy device to self-treat any type of inflammation or tissue damage on the body. So instead of paying thousands of dollars for an invasive therapy or expensive drug with toxic properties, you can heal yourself at home without cutting yourself open or injecting crazy chemicals into your body. I also want to make sure I repeat and emphasize that no, I am not talking about some hypothetical future where we have high-level technology for healing. I'm literally talking about our past. We literally had the means to heal almost any disease or ailment at our fingertips before the medical establishment took it away. Now we live in a world that is designed to make the average person chronically ill, which then entraps them in the American medical system that will force them to overpay and keep them sick and injured. If you don't believe me, according to the 2002 National Vital Statistics Report, the leading cause of death in the United States was directly caused by either the doctor himself or bad medical care, especially if you include the deaths resulting from side effects from pharmaceutical drugs. So in other words, it's literally medical care that was the leading cause of death in the United States. So to say that the medical establishment is trying to kill us is not even an exaggeration. This is literally what's happening right now. So where do we stand today? Electrotherapy still exists today and can be used if you know where to look. However, the practice has been largely discredited by the mainstream medical institutions that are only interested in injecting you with toxic pharmaceuticals. So if you plan to do any sort of independent research into this yourself, don't be shocked if you see people writing this off as snake oil or quackery. That's just a cover. This is also why practitioners have to walk around eggshells regarding what electrotherapy can help with, as any claim not officially approved by the FDA can be subject to massive repercussions. However, if you look up documentation for old electrotherapy devices like the violet ray, it was known to help heal and cure people of a huge host of different illnesses, injuries, and ailments. So there are varying opinions online on whether Tesla's violet ray device actually works. And for those that are feeling adventurous, there are places online where you can actually access a working violet ray or electrical therapy device. However, you will need to exercise precaution around finding the right supplier and understanding proper protocol with these tools. Tesla's contribution to the electrical healing space would echo throughout the next century with individuals that would carry on the torch, such as George Volkovsky and the multi-wave oscillator. And I really recommend that you guys check out the book The Secret of Life, which really breaks down the science. Another example is Royal Raymond Rife, who built the famous frequency healing device. And also Ed Skilling and Bob Beck are great individuals who I recommend that you look into, as they've made fantastic contributions to the field. So just to wrap things up, if our medical care was not completely hijacked by greedy corporate interests, the average person would have a clear way of healing, recovering from the majority of major illnesses and health complications in a cheap and completely non-invasive fashion. But what we have today is a population that is chronically ill, fat, miserable, and looking 10 to 20 years older than they actually are, because we are given regarding health goes against nearly all common sense. We are literally living in the movie Idiocracy, where the truth and falsehood has been completely inverted to the extent that if you were to even bring up the idea of using electricity to heal, most people look at you like you're crazy. This is literally a crime against humanity, and my goal with this channel is to get this information out to as many people as possible to break that illusion. So anyway, that's it for today's video, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. Feel free to leave a comment if you have any questions on this topic, but hope to see you guys next time. Take care.